Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to Michael. We want to apologize for Friday. We're not real sure what happened on Blog Talk's end, but we couldn't get on the show. We couldn't get signed in, and so you all didn't get to listen. So that's the first Monday through Friday show that we didn't do since last January. So anyway, we've got some catching up to do. Today is our Memorial Day celebration 337. So we're almost to a year on that, and that's awesome. Michael will talk about that here in a little bit. Again, our calling number is 646-200-4169. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, sweetie, and welcome everybody to the show. We're delighted that you're here. We're delighted to be able to serve you with the ancient Aramaic process of forgiveness, the process with which you go inside yourself and remove what never belonged from your human form. We have an easy definition for human life. Hold a newborn child. You know exactly what a human is. And once you have that definition fixed in mind, anything unlike that isn't human. It doesn't belong in us. And so our work, our common work, is to remove everything that is unlike your human life through the process of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness, and excuse the noise in the background, but we're on the road traveling. We just reached a spot where we've got internet access, so part of the fun of being on the road. In any event, when Jeanie talks about the honoring of Memorial Day, what we're talking about doing there is to truly honor those who have been forced to engage in the non-human activity of war, who have bought into the belief system that it is necessary to kill another in order to get what you want. And usually, of course, the ones who do the killing are not the ones who get what it is they want, and they get everything they didn't want. But somebody somewhere up the ladder who brainwashed them into believing that war was the solution gets what they want, and so the game goes on. And that's all our offering is. That's all a non-human dynamic, and we're here to change it. We're here to make a shift in it. We're here to let loose of everything that's unlike our human nature. And again, as Jeanie said, we apologize for the fact that Friday's show didn't happen. We're still trying to find out what occurred with the switchboard, but we couldn't get on. You couldn't get on. Bummer. In any event, another opportunity to learn forgiveness. And this forgiving, this process of going inside of ourselves and removing what never belonged in our humanness is what we're here to instruct and inspire and to learn together how to engage in that process of being restored to a human life. On Friday, I actually had a plan to read, and I don't have it in front of me now, but there was an article in the New York Times about some of the insanities that happened in Liberia, and 50,000 people being slaughtered senselessly over one man's lust for power. And all the insane dynamics that go along with it. You might want to look at Friday's New York Times. It's an interesting article, and a number of people are responding to that article. And of course, you just read through the responses to someone who's sharing their experience of this insanity called war. And you could almost see, as you read the responses, you can almost hear those who are responding playing out their little war games, playing out their hostility, their rage, their fear, each one dissing the other over what they said that they didn't like. And, you know, the beat goes on, the game goes on. Well, we're here to inspire the putting an end to that game. We're here to inspire change. And the parameter that we offer for human behavior is, if you can imagine a newborn child doing it, then it's probably appropriate behavior. If you can't imagine a newborn child doing the behavior, then probably you shouldn't be engaging in it. This hostile, fearful game, the child comes in as this awesome presence of love, and this hostile, fearful game we call human life, that is really non-human life, brainwashes and programs it for all the hostilities and fears that it has learned since it came into the world. And it's a learning that everyone who comes must go through. And the unlearning process is engaging in the process of forgiveness and the removal of what never belonged. And so we're here to support you in learning to do that, whether your wars are interpersonal and just verbal, or whether they're external with fists or guns or bombs or whatever it is. It's time for us to make a change on the planet. If we're going to survive as a species, if the planet's going to survive, it's time for us to make a change. So we're here to support you in that change. And Jeanie, do we have David with us? Do we have Dr. Tim?
David and Tim, neither one are with us, but we do have a caller already.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's listen to our caller, see what they have to say.
Area code 954, you're on the air.
Hello, my heart family. This is Nene.
Well, hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Hi. Well, I just want to say that Friday night we had the MindShifters support group in English, and it was great. We had 14 people.
Awesome.
Attending. Yeah, some people all have known you from years ago. Other people have been recently with us, and Lois came. Also, Maria Colmenares and other people from the Latin group also came. Because, you know, if you speak any language, you can come either to the English or the Spanish speaking.
Absolutely.
So it was great, and I did the healing through relationships. And it was just beautiful, really a good energy. And I would like to share that after we did the 3 early memories exercise.
Right.
There is people there, and there was a gentleman. He's an engineer, but he's an excellent acupuncturist.
Right.
And, you know, we did the exercise, and then he came to me after the lecture, and he said to me that he has been working with energy for years, and he knows a lot about energy. And after he did that exercise, he didn't realize how powerful that exercise, and whatever shifted in his mind, how he realized that his problem he was dealing in life, he was able to see it after he realized that his pattern.
It's so cool to watch that light come on, isn't it, in somebody's eyes, to be the facilitator for that happening. Congratulations, young lady. That's fabulous.
Thank you. And then there was another lady, too, that went to some of your lectures years ago, and then she said it was interesting because she felt that I was very warm in my expression. And then those things of intuition that I asked her to read part of the commitment to her spouse.
Right.
And they read it, and then also she said that she felt so warm-hearted after she read those lines. that
and
some shift
that's
created there.
Yeah, that's the for so many people, it's the first time they've had the experience of what a human is designed to function as, because we've been so ripped off for our human lives in this non-human society. You look at the rage, the grief, the guilt, the fear, the terror that so many people have been brainwashed with through so many sources, and they call it good and they call it useful. And I can't tell you how many people over the years have, when I've spoken about anger being destructive and what it does to physiology, I can't tell you how many people have argued that their anger is good and it's useful and it's helpful to them. Yeah. And it's so bizarre. There's actually an interesting video that you can watch on Netflix, or I'm not sure if it's available anywhere else on the net. You can order it. It's a National Geographic video called Stress, the Profile of a Killer. And there's an interesting section that there's this fellow who for decades has been working on doing research on stress related to humans and baboons, and he's come to really honor these baboons, though he says, I don't like them because they're so mean, they're so nasty, they're so vicious to each other. And he shares how this terrible event happened. And the terrible event that happened was there was some tainted meat that had been infected with tuberculosis that was dumped in a nearby dump. And this troop of baboons that he'd been studying went to found the meat and started eating it. And all the baboons in the troop are eating this infected meat. And he's just appalled at what happens, and these baboons start to die. But when the whole thing comes down, the only baboons that died were the vicious, the mean, the aggressive ones. The rest of them were not affected by the tuberculosis. And all of a sudden, a troop that he'd been studying, that he said they're nasty, they're ugly creatures, they're mean to each other, they're vicious, they're aggressive. And he says he shares how he dislikes them, though he honors them. He's been studying them for so long. Mm-hmm. And then he sees this awesome transformation happen before his eyes. And before his eyes, he sees the only ones that are left are the gentle, the nurturing, and the kind. The rest of them are all dead. Mm-hmm. Hostility kills people. It destroys immunity. Yeah. It destroys the brain. He goes into the physiology of this. And then he tells an interesting story where the baboons that are left are all of a sudden they create a whole new culture, and it's a culture of nurturing and a culture of caring. And he sees these stress chemicals start to disappear from them and their health changes. And when new baboons who come from other baboon troops that are in the nasty mode show up, and they're usually the males, interestingly enough, how the males have been brainwashed in our human culture as in in the non-human cultures. And interestingly enough, if you look today, the amount of brainwashing that's being done to turn women into the same thing. And these males come in their nasty form, and soon the whole troop of baboons teaches these new males, that's not acceptable behavior here. You don't tear into a young one. You don't abuse a female. You just stop that. And he says in about 6 months, those baboons catch on and they change. And, those who want to proclaim that their hostility and their fear is good, and the source that gave them their hostility and their fear, the source that terrorized them, was wonderful for them, it's time for us to give that insanity up, because it's what destroys this temple. Yeah. And many people, when they read that commitment, it's oftentimes the first time that they've tapped into, this is how a human being thinks, rather than in terms of terror and fear. So congratulations on opening another whole group of folks, and I'll bet you learned as much or more than anybody in the group, right?
Yes, that's one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite, and I see people are doing their worksheets. People are calling to ask what happened in this number, this and that. People, very nice. So I'm very pleased with both the Latin group and the English group. I see that people are starting to be connected with themselves, because that's when you do your work, you connect with yourself, with your own beauty and your own love.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Well, good work.
Thank you.
That's
So I will
fabulous.
email for the next meetings. I will email to Jeanie today so she can post and email, to people. And we hope to have even more people with us.
Awesome. Well, we'll hold the space for that, and we're here in Jacksonville for the next 2 weeks, and then we'll be heading to Fort Lauderdale. And what I was planning to do is set up and gather a group of folks that are interested in bringing the support groups forward into the area, and all the way from Miami to Boca and further north. So we'll see if we can gather everyone and create a plan for how we move things to the next level. I talked to Michael and Margaret a couple of days ago, and they were at Dr. Love's, and he's volunteered his new office for a support group one night a week. So there's a space there. Lois perhaps has a space. So there's lots of energy moving in the direction of let's light up the whole East Coast with the active presence of love.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for your call. Thank you for your work, Nene. We'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Me too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. So our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Jeanie, do we have any other callers?
We do not have any other callers right now. We do have a welcome. We have someone from India listening in the chat room. And so I'm not sure whether this is their first time here or not, but I gave them some information about that Aramaic forgiveness is not about letting the other person off the hook, but it's about going inside and removing the energies that do not belong in our system. And our website's www.why, again, that's WHYAGAIN.com. You can go there. You can download the book. You can download worksheets, our schedule, all kinds of information. There's audios, videos to watch and listen. And then join us every day, Monday through Friday, on the radio show. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And speaking of schedules, we just changed our intensive schedule. You might want to elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay. Well, namaste to you in India. You live in one of my favorite places on planet Earth to go and visit. I loved my time in India. I was there about, 12 years ago or so, and spent 2 months and just loved every minute of it. And traveled from up in northern India, the Kulu Valley, down into Bombay. I think it was about an 8-hour bus ride and a 24-hour train ride. That was interesting. The chai wallet jumping on the train at every stop, and gee, you'd think you could get a minute's sleep, but that was an interesting experience. So for you in India, we welcome you to the show. We're delighted that you're here, and we've actually about 2 years ago we almost took a group of people to India, and then there was just too much going on our plate to do that. But we may plan to do that at some point in the future. So keep us connected with you, and maybe you'll get to see us, and we'll be there and come do some live workshops. So delighted that you're here. And as for our new schedule, we've changed our intensives around for this year at Heartland. It seems that people are not traveling much, and we just finished doing 2 9-day back-to-back intensives. The first one we announced here in Florida, and within just 3 or 4 days it was full with extra people, and so we set up a second 9-day intensive, and that one too filled up pretty quickly. And so we have changed and cut back on what we'll be doing at Heartland this summer. It seems that people are just not traveling to do intensives. They want to do things more locally, so we're going to do more local events, and we're going to be actually doing 3 events starting on the, July the 12th, Jeanie, I think? The 12th to the 21st. We're going to do, Chef Ari's going to come and do an awesome 10 days of food, fun, forgiveness, and work projects. It'll be our opening event for the summer at Heartland this year, and it's an economy-type program, so the food, the accommodations, the workshops, the workshop materials, the lessons in the kitchen, and Ari is a walking encyclopedia of food, and he's got some exciting new recipes. I was thinking maybe Friday we could see if we could get Ari on the show again and have food questions for Ari or what he's going to be doing. So our 10 days will be about Part of the time will be devoted to food preparation and learning some of the new secrets that Ari's got to share with us, both in live and cooked food preparation. And then we'll be doing work projects on the property to get the buildings and the cabins ready and that sort of thing, finish off some building projects. And we'll be doing some playtime down at the lake and forgiveness work. And still point breathing, we're planning to put 2 still point breath sessions within 10 days. So anybody that wants to join us, the whole 10-day program is going to be $750 for everything, including this awesome food that you'll be getting to learn how to make. And, of course, you probably don't have to learn how to eat it. You probably know how to do that already. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll start we'll have a day off, and the next day, which is the 23rd of July, we'll start a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And the 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again will cover a whole series of workshops. You can look on the website to get the flyer that will give you the details of that. And then we'll follow that up. We'll do a 9-day teacher training for those who are ready to jump in at the next level. And we're going to do a special. We haven't got the flyer created for it yet. Within the next day or so, we'll have it completed and on the website. But if you've done a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive, and you want to do the food, fun, and forgiveness and the teacher training, we're going to offer the opportunity to do the 9-day Why for $575, and the normal price is $1575. So it'll be just about 2/3 off to do the 9-day Why. If you've already done a Why intensive, then you get to review it for about 1/3 the normal price. And then the teacher's training and the food, fun, forgiveness, and work projects will be part of that package. If you have done teacher's training previously, then and or you want to come to the 9-day Why but not do the other 2 programs, then we're going to offer the opportunity to do a review of the 9-day Why or the 9-day teacher training for half price, half of the $1575 that it normally is. So we'll have all those options on the website soon, and we'd be delighted to have you come and share it with us. If you're wanting to know more about the Aramaic forgiveness process, of course, you can go to the website, www.whyagain.com. You can download the book free. English, German, Russian, Spanish, Swedish, Farsi. Well, pardon me, you can't download the Swedish version. The Swedish publisher wouldn't let us put it on the website free. They had a fear that it would cost them money. So we do, but we do have the book published in Swedish. And Farsi are the languages that are on the website so far. We've got several other languages underway, and so we invite you to go to the website, download the book, and to get to hone in on the forgiveness process itself. How do you go inside yourself and change the root of your hostility and fear? Is to remove what never belonged, and how to do that. If you go to the right-hand side of the website, you'll see about 6 links down, one that says download worksheets. And so if you click on download worksheets, that will tell you exactly how the forgiveness process is done. Totally, completely reversed from what our cultures teach on this planet. Most cultures, at least the ones I'm aware of, teach that forgiveness is about, you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, it's all your fault, but it's okay, I'll forgive you. And we're going to invite you to never forgive anyone ever again. We're going to invite you to engage in true forgiveness. What is true forgiveness? If somebody does something that resonates or brings up your capacity to be in some form of pain, then forgiveness is how you go inside yourself and rid yourself of the root of your pain. Whole different process. Frees you from the insanity of hostility and fear. And so that's what we're here to share with you. And if you go to that download worksheets link, you'll see a new chapter 24 of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? You'll see the worksheet itself is the second link. Then the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh links are all radio shows, live instructions for how to do the forgiveness process. So you can go in, and each worksheet has a totally different character to it. When I say that, I mean there's a different issue and a different approach. So we've put those samples on there so that you have different ways of approaching the worksheet and learning to forgive. And so you can download, you just right-click on those MP3s and just hit Save to Target and then put it somewhere in your hard drive where you'll know where it is, and it'll download and save it for you. Or you can just listen to it on the website. You don't need to download it. There are also, well over 300 shows in our archives. from our radio talk shows. And so you can go to the website anytime, click on the radio show. You'll see where Jeanie has them nice and neatly arranged month by month. Many of them titled, not all. If you happen to listen to one that isn't titled, if you wouldn't mind writing up a description for us of what you think it should be titled and what it covers, then we'll add that description to that particular show. Sometimes with all the things we have on our plate, catching up with those descriptions is a challenge. We'll by the time we get home in July, we'll have been on the road for 10 months. It's a pretty intense time, and so we get to do an intensive about 365 days a year. And so here we are. We're actually sitting in the cafeteria of a corporate dining room right now, looking over the water, over the river here in Jacksonville, Florida. Train bridge on one side, beautiful concrete bridge on the other side, and here we are sitting. We had to find some place we could get an internet connection, so that's where we are. So, Jeanie, do we have any callers? Our call-in number, by the way, is 646-200-4169, 646-200-4169. We would invite you to pick up the phone, call us. When you do call, or if you're on the line, if you have a question for me or for Jeanie, hit 1, and by hitting that 1, that will take you into the queue for a conversation with us. So we would be delighted to hear your sweet voice, and we thrive off of your questions. That's really the thing that makes the show move the fastest and the best. And so if you have a question for us, please call in 646-200-4169, hit 1, and then Jeanie will know you want to talk to us. Jeanie, do we have any callers or anything happening in the chat room?
No, there are no callers, and nobody has any questions. We've lost a few people in the chat room. Please call back in. And you can also call in by Skype. There's a Skype button at the top of the screen, so you can click on that and dial in that way as well. Lisa's in the chat room. She's been going through a healing crisis lately. Perhaps, Lisa, you'll call in and share that with us. 646-200-4169, press 1.
So we are here to support you in this process of learning forgiveness. And if you and I right now were in a conversation personally one-on-one, and I had just covered all the ideas that I just covered, would you have questions about that? Would there be something about that that might not make sense? Something about that you might want to know more about? If so, then we invite you to tap in and ask your question. And when you engage in this process on a deeper level, which of course you have to do in order to call in, we'll see the process in your life deepening and reaching deeper and deeper levels. You know, the way that the game of life works, you'll notice if there's somebody in your life that you're currently blaming for what's going on inside of you, you'll notice that what you're currently blaming them for, you experienced long before you even met them. And your brain has used its capacity to generate images to make a picture of a body that you call them and pretend that they are the cause of what you're feeling under the surface. So they become the symbol. Your mind generates this symbol, and that symbol becomes the place where you project the content of your own mind. When you look at the world of bodies only exists between our ears. It exists nowhere in the actual world. One of the main bases of this work is the work of a man named Yeshua and the work of a man named Einstein. And Einstein says it this way: if you think you're separate or separated from the rest of humanity, you're living in an optical delusion. Notice that you look through your eyes, and it seems you're looking upon a world where all these separate bodies are. But if Einstein's correct when he says you're living in an optical delusion, is your brain tricking you? Did Einstein understand the trick because he understood how this energy system of life worked? He also says this, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy. Energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. Einstein tells us matter does not exist. Recognizing that matter does not exist, then when you look at something that looks like a chunk of matter, you're looking at an image in your brain, a symbol made up in your brain by what that energy system out there resonates in you. And so the pictures, you look at the picture-making capacity of the mind tricks us into believing that what it shows us is real and true. There's actually an excellent audio track that you can go to our website and link to. Jeanie has it on the section on the right-hand side that says Other Links. And that section that says Other Links has a link to a radio show with a woman named Jill Bolte Taylor and an NPR interview that she does. And Jill is a neuroscientist. And Jill wakes up one morning to the realization that she's having a left brain stroke. She goes through the whole description of how it all happens and how this whole world of pictures, the world that she thought was so real, begins to crumble as a result of her stroke. And she all of a sudden has the insight, and her book is called A Stroke of Genius. She all of a sudden has the insight that her whole world of separate bodies is an hallucination made up by the left brain. We have to be brainwashed into that. And as small children, we have our human lives taken away by those who would brainwash us into a world of hostility, fear, rage, guilt, and pain, and threaten us with all kinds of nasty things if we don't agree with them and go along. And at some point, we have to start to question those nasty things and recognize those things are not representative of and did not and do not come from human life. And it's time for us to start to forgive them. It's time to just let go of them and go back and reclaim our humanness, reclaim your human life, this awesome presence of love that you are. That's what we're here to support you in doing. And if it seems like that's impossible, which if you're steeped in the world the way the world works, it would certainly, I understand that it seems impossible. But as you choose to tackle the inner work of letting loose of what does not belong, of forgiving, all of a sudden you come more and more and more into the experience of your humanness, the experience of who you are. And that's what we're here to support you in doing. That's what we're here to empower you to do. And so tap into that link, Jill Bolte Taylor, neuroscientist. And it was really fabulous when she came along with that because it just verifies everything we've been teaching for over 4 decades now and how to undo what never belonged. And Jeannie's telling me we have a caller, so let's tap in and listen to our caller.
Lisa, I had you for a brief second, and then you disappeared. I think I've got you here. 330, you're on the air. Is this Lisa? Well, the switchboard's doing something really weird again.
Hello, 330, you're on the air.
Well, while we're waiting for that to come through, there was a question in the chat room. Someone wanted you to comment on, oh, there's Lisa. Hold on a second, then we'll get the chat room question. Lisa, let's try it again. There you are.
Can you hear me?
We got you this time.
Hey, we got you. Awesome.
Oh, well, I was wondering if you could comment on kidney stones and the mind-body connection between anger, rage, and the Aramaic forgiveness process.
Well, if it's a pretty easy one to figure out. If you listen to the slang of the culture, we don't need to mention it on the air. Everybody knows the words. What are the slang words for being angry? And that's the part of the body that it affects and impacts, the kidneys, the urinary tract.
Yeah.
And
people who live in that state, of hostility and fear that's called PO'd, tend to experience, much like the story. I don't know if you heard when I was talking about the baboons in that video, Stress, a Profile of a Killer. Watch it. It's awesome. It's so powerful. And it shows how the only creatures that died when they ate this tainted meat with the tuberculosis were the ones that were in that state of aggressiveness and anger and expressing non-life. There's life, which is this awesome presence of love that we are. And then there's this non-life that we're trained into as though it could benefit us and bring us what we want. And the tissue that holds that non-life vibration starts to deteriorate. And so I'd support you being willing to deal with that aggressiveness and that anger that, as justified as it seems, only damages you.
Yes. Well, what I felt, and I may be off target, is that as you've said before, that that rage and that anger crystallizes in our body unit, and I felt like I just keep processing, and I was hoping that I was cleansing out those stored areas, as those kidney stones were releasing. And by the way, my experience with it was extremely short. It only lasted about 36 hours, and I've still got some tenderness in that area, but nothing compared to other folks that I've seen go through a similar. And also, while in the grips of the pain, I just remembered to stay present, loving, and do the breathing through all of that.
That's what moves the energy. That's what literally dissolves the crystals and allows what does not belong to be literally, completely moved from its so-called, or its lowered state of vibration we call physical, back to the non-physical, back to the space where it never belonged. So nice work. That's awesome. 36 hours, pretty quick, and I'd be, following that other little piece of information we gave you to continue the process and make sure that you're completely done with it. On a physical level, the crystals are, calcium type crystals, and when you put something like apple cider vinegar, live apple cider vinegar with live enzymes in it, it tends to dissolve those kinds of deposits throughout the body. And of course, the release isn't always Dr. Feelgood, is it? Which is why a lot of people don't want to do it.
Well, and I got to tell you, and particularly for me, quote unquote, the vision that I have of myself is very strong and is very capable and very able to handle the pain and to literally be lying in bed, having these almost like birth contractions. I mean, it was extremely painful, and it was a reminder to stay humble also in the face of this human form for me.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome device that we've been given, isn't it, to take care of?
Yeah.
And when our culture teaches us to abuse it with all the crazy things that it teaches to abuse it with, it's quite a challenge to trace back through those things and let go of those energies that really are a travesty on a tissue level.
And I know I can't change what I've done I guess I can cancel that. But I wish that I hadn't done some of the things to my human body that I've done, but I just hope from moving from this point forward that I can make better choices and move forward healthfully.
Well, and notice, it's been over a year since you've been at Heartland now, and of course we're not present there to observe, but I know that over the year and some months that you were at Heartland, I watched you come in a state where you could be triggered into pretty deep pain and pretty deep rage in a fraction of a second. And then as you got ready to close your time out there, that you were a whole lot more connected to this human life you have. Not finished your work, but opened a big space. And, it sounds like you're continuing to do that, and that's what it takes. And, when we recognize that, of course, we can rationalize rage and fear and ration lies. It tells us lies. It gives us reasons to do things. And, like somebody told us we'd get our way faster and easier if we were enraged. It's like, when did that ever work? Now, of course, in the short term, we might seem to be able to get something we want right this minute. But in the long term, that rage and hostility destroy relationships and destroy our bodies. So, it doesn't really get us what we want. It may be a short-term benefit, and sometimes that's all the mind thinks about is the short-term benefit. But the long-term cost is so horrendous. It's just amazing.
I'm really blessed, and I know that I am, and I am a completely different person than I was when I arrived at Heartland for what I thought was just going to be 6 months, which turned into a year. And as I watch myself now, and I watch myself operating in the quote unquote normal world, and because I deal in retail, I'm in retail all day, and so I get to see everything in a microcosm all day long. And I'm triggered, and then I'm not, and then I process myself, and then I'm triggered, and then I'm not, and I'm holding a space of love, and I'm as soon as I'm triggered, I go back to that space of love as quickly as possible. And 2.5 years ago, even though I had been introduced to the worksheet process, I hadn't been doing the true forgiveness, because I didn't grok it like I do now, or at least I think I do now. And I am completely different, and everybody that is in my life is completely different. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to not be at the affect of the vibrational influences of this outer world. Well, at least for the most part. I know I can change them.
Well, that's exactly what our purpose for having Heartland is to support people in being able to deepen the understanding of that in a way that otherwise wouldn't really be possible. And so I acknowledge you for your willingness. I certainly acknowledge and appreciate the work you did at Heartland while you were there. And just keep moving forward and bringing the blessing of the active presence of love to every mind, heart, and being. Are you doing a support group up there, by the way?
Well, I've inquired, and I don't seem to get much response. But I listened this morning, and I heard it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll start it. So yeah, I will. I guess it's time, because I got to. If I want to move further, I've got to teach it so I can learn it even more.
That's it. Well, the Unity Church up there had a pretty good gathering of people who were working with the tools, and so you might want to connect in with them, and I suspect that they'd be open to starting a support group, and I think you'd have some instant participants. And I've shared this on the show before, but back when I first started doing this work, one of the things I used to do, I had a class that I did that was a 23-hour weekend lecture. I mean, I lectured. I did a presentation of material that started at 7 o'clock at night, went through to 10:30, started at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, went through to 10:30 at night on Saturday night, started at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, went to 6. And that was continuous lecture. And I've done that for 2 people. So if you think you don't have enough people, if there's you and one other, and in fact, Dr. Tim has shared with us a couple of times, he's been doing a support group up in the Chicago area for almost 7 years now. And he's had times when he's been the only one there, and he goes ahead with his lesson that he's going to present. And he says, and I get the gift that I went to give. So even if there's only you, I'd support you doing it anyway. And you and one other person, Yeshua said, if 2 of you are gathered in my name, I'm there.
Yeah.
So when you have two, you've got three. You've got the three most important ones in the world. The one that came to learn it, the second one that came to teach it, to learn it under the guise of teaching it, and the third one, the true teacher who will be there supporting you. And, who can ask for anything more?
Yeah, I'll reconnect with those, because I have been to that church, and I will reconnect with those folks and hopefully get something going.
Awesome. Well, you've got our support in any way we can help. Let us know.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks for the information, and always and holding the space for my going through my stuff. I appreciate it.
You've got our support. Have a blessed one.
Thank you. Aloha.
Okay, bye-bye. Aloha. So 646-200-4169 is our number. Pick up the phone, call us. 1 till 2 o'clock, 5 days a week. If you happen to be listening to this on the archives, Eastern Time, 5 days a week, and in just over a year, well, I guess almost a year and a half, we missed a show on Friday. Something went awry with the switchboard, and we could not sign into the show. Something just went crazy, and the woman who created the station in Blog Talk was on the show before us, and she got cut off, and her show was lost, and ours disappeared too. And we did everything we could to get it taken care of, but unfortunately, you didn't hear us. We apologize for that, and I think Jeanie's got a caller.
Actually, first I want to talk about, in the chat room, someone had asked if you could put a comment to the, and I'm probably saying this wrong, Ho'oponopono. However, while I was waiting, while you were chatting with Lisa there, and Lisa had mentioned too, that she had actually met us in Hawaii, and that's actually started. It was an ancient Hawaiian tradition that included. Hold on, let me flip over here. It included prayer, discussion, confession, repentance, mutual restitution, and forgiveness. And it's been around in Hawaii for forever. I mean, it's very ancient practice. However, they had mentioned a Dr. Hugh Lin, and so I wasn't real familiar with him, but I brought it up on the Internet. And one of the first things he says is he points out that the bottom line is that whenever there is a problem that we notice, that we are there. And that he always asks divinity to making amends, to cleaning up whatever it was in him that he had in common with what he was watching or looking at. And that when he was doing the prayers and the things, and they said that the patients within the ward at that hospital, that they were healed, but he said that the healing always begins, the peace always begins within himself. And that although he still stumbles a lot, that's what he practices. And the other healing was because then he just created the space for it. So he does not say in any way that he healed the patients by his prayer. But then in the chat room they say that it says, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you." And those are all very powerful statements. However, the "please forgive me" is still off base based on our Aramaic. So you want to comment on that? And then we do have a caller.
Of course, and I believe that the reason why the original Ho'oponopono is so powerful is because it comes out of Aramaic roots. I believe that the Hawaiians are one of the lost 12 tribes of Israel, and the reason is that word aloha is virtually identical to the word Rakhma that Yeshua used when he described the first law. And what he said was, you must have Rakhma, that is literally a condition of love in the frontal lobes of the brain, for anybody that you think about in order to maintain your human life. And the whole concept of aloha, it's in the brain, and it's a state that you hold. So I believe that the Hawaiians were part of that original Aramaic culture, and that's why they have what they had. But the way that it's practiced, because when it's brought into a culture, there are only certain ways to say things in a certain culture. And so some replacements that you might think about, some ways to bring that into a more aligned vibration with the Aramaic would be, first of all, if I say to you, I'm sorry, and I'm obviously sorry for something. When you look at the world as an energetic dynamic, when you get two people, the Course in Miracles speaks about What you see in another, you reinforce both in them and in yourself. So if I'm saying I'm sorry for ABC, now you're seeing ABC in me and I'm seeing ABC in me. What did we just strengthen? That which I'm sorry for. So I would offer that what we invite people to do with this work is, rather than ever saying you're sorry ever again, please don't ever do that again. It's a terrible thing to do to yourself and another, because as creators, in order to be sorry, you have to focus into what you're sorry about, and that means you're going to create more of it. So rather than that, what we offer in this work is an apology. You know, if I see that somewhere in my life I've really screwed up, I apologize. I truly do hold that I was in error there. And then what I want to do is gather support for what I'm going to do instead. So once I offer, I apologize, I made an error, then I'm going to speak about what I'm going to do in the future. So, you know, if I walk by and accidentally stepped on your toe, and I say I'm sorry for stepping on your toe, I just reinforced the energy of next time I'm going to step on your toe again, most likely. But when I join our minds in something different, and that something different would be, you know, I apologize. I was really in error when I stepped on your toe. And what I'm going to do in the future is I'm going to be very aware of where my feet are and honor your feet and take care of you. Now I've got your mind and my mind joined in doing something different. Then the next step, when we talk about I forgive you, you know, we live in a culture where forgiveness is taught in a totally, completely backward way. You did something terrible, caused all this pain inside of me, but it's okay, I'll forgive you. That thinking is born of error. Please stop forgiving people. If there is an energy in you that is not based in your human life, that's based in hostility or fear, then apply forgiveness to that area in your life. So perhaps I stepped on your toe on purpose. And now, recognizing the error of my ways, I apologize for stepping on your toe. In the future, I'll take care of your toe. And I realize that I did that out of hostility. And so I'm going to apply the tool of forgiveness to my hostility, to remove my hostility that I expressed toward you. So rather than forgiving you or forgiving myself, I change the dynamic that drives me in a way other than human behavior, other than behavior that is motivated from the active presence of love. So rather than I forgive you, let's change it to what I really want to do is change the internal dynamic that created the thing that I apologized for in the first place. I promise you it's going to get you a whole lot further. And then, let's see, what was the third one, Jeanie? Oh, thank you. Awesome thing to do. And, you know, if we think that love is a verb, we go around trying to love each other, and we think that someone can love us. And so we see millions of people in the pursuit. You know, you look at the crazy stuff that's going on in the culture, the crazy way people dress. You know, you look at women who've been made into sex objects, and what are they doing by walking around like they're a set of genitals and a set of busts, but trying to get someone to love them? Excuse me, folks, it's looking for love in all the wrong places. Nobody's ever loved you, and nobody's ever going to love you, and you've never loved anyone, and you're never going to love anyone. So to say I love you, I'm sorry, but it's just off base. Pardon me. I apologize. It's off base. And when you recognize that, then what my commitment is I choose to be love in your presence. I choose to maintain the condition of my original beingness when in your presence, as opposed to I love you, which the culture's idea of love is to approve of. So people are looking to be approved of or looking for love in all the wrong places because somebody else can't give you the experience of who you are. Only you can do that when you reclaim your humanness. Hold a newborn child, you know what love is. That's what you and I would offer, are designed to function out of, that active presence of love. And my take would be that what Hugh Lin did that emptied that asylum was that he looked through, he went to each file of each inmate in that those wards, and he looked inside himself for what he had that joined with them in their insanity. And by exposing that in himself to the active presence of his human life, love, he dissolved it. And its dissolution changed the energy dynamics of those in the ward. So he did that. My offering would be he did that by functioning as the active presence of love, not by loving them, but as the active presence of love. That is, that we are transformational beings when we are in our beingness. Just go hold a newborn child. How many stories have you heard about the gruff, nasty old grandmother or grandfather who lived in pain all their lives, and all of a sudden a grandchild is born, and they hold this grandchild, and their lives are transformed. They're being transformed by the active presence of love. Sadly, the specialty of the world is to remove our human lives and to take us out of the active presence of love and teach us to be in other states that agree with them rather than reclaiming who we are. And so my invitation would be that as opposed to efforting loving others, effort living as the active presence of love, and from that will flow such awesome behaviors that people will say to you, you are the most loving person I've ever seen. And that's what we're here to support and to learn ourselves. None of us is perfect at doing it. So, Jeanie, you've got a caller for us. I hope that fills in some blanks for you. And if you have any other comments on that, you're certainly welcome to put them in the chat room. We'll continue that after we listen to our caller. Jeanie?
Okay, we're down to about 3 minutes. Area code 813, you're on the air. Who do we have?
Hey, Jeanie, it's Pauline. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we sure can. Hi,
Loud
Pauline.
and clear. Hey,
I have done 40 days of worksheets of 3 a day. And
awesome.
The support group that we started here is not really getting a lot of response. So it was really down to me and Eric and a lady named Jan, and her husband came once. But they're joining the group over at Harmony on Wednesday, and Eric and I can't do the Wednesday meeting over there. So I thought I would call in and just get support from you guys as to where do I go from here with worksheets, or what piece of work is next.
Well, my highest thought would be if you had 3 of you, you had a majority, I'd continue with that support group. As I said, I've done literally 23-hour weekend lectures for 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would continue with your commitment, and it usually takes time to build, and by continuing and unswervingly moving through that energy, what you'll find is more and more people start to show up. I talked to Dr. Tim. He's a psychologist, and he's got psychologist friends who say, why do you go and do that group every week? You've been doing it for 7 years. They don't even pay you. You could be seeing paying clients. And, he was on the show last week, and he said they had 4 people last week. He's been doing it for 7 years.
Wow.
He said the miracles that happen are awesome, and he always gets another piece of his own puzzle by doing that. And he's found it so dramatically valuable to continue unswervingly that he continues, even if there are, what the world would say, only 4 people. And this would be a great topic to open up with tomorrow. Our time is up now, so we're going to have to close out the show. Okay. But this would be a great topic to open up with tomorrow and have more conversation on. If you want to call in, and we'll have that conversation. Otherwise, everybody, bring a stranger tomorrow. We're delighted that you're here, and have the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.witchesandwonders.com. whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.